I'm going to talk to Lanny Davis, who's, of course, associated with Michael Cohen, and we'll come back to you in a second, Dasha. So, Lanny, let me go to you while Dasha gives us an update about what's happening, in real time in the courtroom. You, of course, once served as a legal advisor to Michael Cohen. You're not in that role anymore, but, of course, you're still close with Mr. Cohen. So tell me, Lanny, was today the first time that you learned that Cohen had stolen from the Trump organization, or was that a known fact?
No, I knew that he paid himself what he thought he deserved and had been paid in bonuses and other outlays that he had made on behalf of Mr. Trump. And my understanding is he didn't defend that action, but I did know that, yes.
So how does that impact his credibility in terms of his testimony today?
You know, I'm just going to take a contrary view about who's indicted here. I know this is going to make news on Meet the Press. Michael Cohen is not indicted. Donald Trump is indicted. He said he would take the stand to defend himself. So far, Michael Cohen is accused as if he's indicted, and that's what the defense did. And I think a lot of the media has bought that. So let's just go back to basics. Basic number one is that people testified, corroborating Michael Cohen, that Mr. Trump wanted the payment to Stormy Daniels for campaign purposes. Check the box. That's a crime. Michael Cohen went to jail for that crime of a politically motivated contribution. Number two, Donald Trump, while president, wrote out $35,000 checks to Michael Cohen with his handwriting in his checking account as president of the United States. Why did he do that? He lied when he said they were for legal expenses. His top chief financial officer, Mr. Weisselberg, handwritten notes said you take $210,000, multiply them by 2 so that there's no income taxes owed for the advances Michael Cohen made, including the $130,000 to Stormy Daniels. You double it and you get to $420,000. You divide that by 12, that's $35,000 checks, period. The jury has that evidence. All the attacks on Michael Cohen don't change the $35,000 checks that were paid to reimburse Michael Cohen. Rudy Giuliani said they were reimbursements. Even Donald Trump said reimbursements. They were not legal fees. That's all the jury needs to do. It doesn't have to decide on Michael Cohen's credibility or anything else. He's corroborated by documents and testimony.
Okay, and I understand that he's not on trial here, sir, but you understand why his credibility is being brought into question. I mean, that is part of what the jury does have to take into account here. He's the star witness for the prosecution, so his credibility is still a big part of this conversation, is it not?
So, no, it isn't. I know it's contrarian to what everybody thinks, but every single thing that he has testified to, where his credibility has been challenged, has been corroborated. I just gave you Hope Hicks and Mr. Pecker saying that the money was politically motivated. Check the box. That's a crime. Nothing to do with Michael Cohen. Then I said Donald Trump wrote $35,000 a month as a sitting president personally to Michael Cohen, and he called them legal expenses. Weisselberg used those numbers to repay him on a piece of paper in his own handwriting. Believe Weisselberg, not Michael Cohen.
Okay, so his testimony, Michael Cohen's testimony right now, being contradicted as we speak by Robert Costello, who was on the stand. He's testifying that Michael Cohen told him, this is Costello relaying a conversation he had with Michael Cohen, that Trump did not know about the Stormy Daniels payments. So who should we believe here, Michael Cohen or Robert Costello?
So there's a lot I know about Robert Costello and his dealings with Mr. Cohen that I won't get into because it's not about whether Donald Trump is guilty or not. Mr. Costello testified voluntarily to the grand jury, and the grand jury decided it didn't need to hear Michael Cohen rebut. That's a fact. That's what the grand jury thought of Mr. Costello. Also, he claims to have been a legal advisor. He charged Michael Cohen, sent him a bill when there was never an engagement letter, and actually asked Michael to pay him. Those are the only two facts. He has nothing to do with whether Donald Trump paid reimbursements. That's the only legal issue, or legal expenses, and that is demonstrated by the Weisselberg handwritten memo that says they were reimbursements.
One of the things that came up during his cross-examination today is that Michael Cohen acknowledged that he has a financial stake in this trial. How does that influence his testimony, and how could the jury potentially receive that information?
Again, please forgive me for not buying the premise that all of the media, so I'm odd man out here. This is not about Michael Cohen being greedy, moral, a liar, or anything else. There is an indictment of Donald Trump. His credibility, if it didn't depend on other witnesses, corroboration by documents, text messages, emails, then I could understand the attack on his credibility would be meaningful. The jury can go into that jury room and ignore what Michael Cohen has said and look at the documents, look at other people's testimony, like Hope Hicks saying it was about the campaign to hush up Stormy Daniels. That's not Michael Cohen. David Pecker said it was about the campaign. It wasn't a personal, nothing to do with politics. So that you don't need Michael Cohen. And the last thing I'm mentioning to you is the Allen Weisselberg handwritten notes prove that this was reimbursement money, not legal fees. Ergo, that is guilt. And it's about Donald Trump, everybody being indicted, not Michael Cohen.
So do you feel as though the prosecutors asked Michael Cohen all the questions that they needed to ask him? Was there anything that you think they left out that they should have asked?
No, I think Susan Hoffinger did a great job on the redirect, and I think all that the defense has done. Let me just finally say to you that when a lawyer screams, "You're a liar," and all the media came out, oh my God, that was a Perry Mason moment, and I do believe, without criticizing, that's what they did. That was not testimony. That was not evidence. That was a lawyer shouting. And even if it's true that Michael Cohen is a liar, and he's acknowledged lying, he said he was ashamed of himself in front of the nation in the House Oversight Committee hearings, this is about Donald Trump's indictment for paying hush money for political reasons and for reimbursing Michael Cohen as a sitting president with $35,000 a month checks that were derived by the mathematical formula of $420,000 divided by 12. Nothing to do with legal expenses.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying, sir, and I do think that's true, that there is a corroboration here and that the prosecution has gone to great lengths to tie all these things together. But the idea that Michael Cohen's credibility isn't at least part of this conversation, I think, is a little flip. I mean, he wouldn't be the star witness for the prosecution. They wouldn't have even put him on the stand if that were the case. So I do think that that's part of what the jury has to weigh, right?
It's something in between. Of course, the jury has to weigh credibility of all witnesses, including Michael Cohen. He owns his lies, and he's admitted those lies publicly. But if I'm in the jury room and I disbelieve Michael Cohen, the evidence is, in my opinion, somewhat jaundiced, I guess, because I'm a friend of Michael's. There is evidence corroborating all the elements of the crime that is in the indictment of, not Michael Cohen,
right,
Donald Trump. And that's all my point is. Of course, credibility is a valid issue. You put someone on the stand, that's a valid cross-examination.
Okay, Lanny Davis, I appreciate the conversation, sure.
Thanks
Thank you so much.
for giving me the extra time to explain.
All right.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.